Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking about Deadpool 2. So this is my non-review of Deadpool 2. I have not seen Deadpool 2. What I've done is I've watched all of the available reviews that I could watch for Deadpool 2. And Deadpool, the Deadpool franchise is a very unusual franchise for me. I'm absolutely fascinated by the Deadpool movie franchise, but I'm also really opposed to what they've done with the character, because I think at the core, Deadpool 2 is it is a threat to the entire superhero genre. It really makes it complicated for families who want to see superhero movies. It makes it very complicated for them to know what they can see and what they can't, right? Or it complicates, it adds complication. It might be going too far to say it makes it very complicated, but what used to be a simple transaction of a family, okay, so, you know, it's the middle of June on any given year, right? And a big cape superhero movie comes out, and people are like, oh, you know, and the kids say to the parents, you know, let's say it's a family, 2 parents, 3 children, oh, hey, parents, we'd really like to go see this movie. And the parents, before Deadpool, could say, oh, sure, it'll be PG-13. Let's go. We'll have fun. We'll buy popcorn. We'll see the movie. And if any of us like it, you know, if 2 or 3 of us like it, we'll take the whole family again, right? And this is a very simple, you know, math. It was simple math, right? A family could say, hey, I want to go to the movies, and I want to see a fun, family-friendly superhero movie, right? And Marvel has done this. They've realized that if you want to sell 10, 15, 20 tickets off of one family, this is how you do it, right? You make your movie accessible to families, right? And this has a rich history and that history is comic books. So in the comic books have had a code for a long time, and basically, you know, any kind of movie is for teens and up, right? And even if there's some content in there that, you know, that you're taking your elementary kid to see, you know, you cover their eyes for a minute, or you explain to them what they just saw, you're covered, right? And Deadpool threw all that out. It threw all that out, right? And so I have given a review for Deadpool, for a movie I've never seen, and my non-review. And I'm giving my non-review for Deadpool 2 because I'm absolutely fascinated by these movies, because I think they're of political, cultural, and societal importance, right? I think they really, and the reason why is, it is my opinion that entertainment is the new primary export of the United States of America. And so, you know, Deadpool being in the mix changes literally our export ratios, right? Because previously, you know, superhero movies are the pinnacle of the entertainment industry now. And, you know, before Deadpool, there was just this very simple, you know, math problem where if you were a parent and you had a big family and it was the summertime and you wanted to have fun, you could plunk down your movie dollars, see somebody in a cape, punch somebody else in a cape, and you were all going to have a good time and everything was cool. And Deadpool changed that. Deadpool said, oh, not all superhero movies are for all families. So next time so you don't get to just be a parent and then say, oh, you want to see a superhero movie? Great, let's all go. You have to get online and you have to do some serious research and make sure that this is, you know, this is for you and your family, right? And the reality is, most parents are like, we'll wait for it to come on Netflix. We'll wait, you know, don't really need to rush out to see this. And so Deadpool is actually chipping away, in my opinion, at the actual box office, for, you know, totals for the United States of America at the macro level. And that, to me, is upsetting. All right, so that's the basis for why I feel the way I do about Deadpool. One thing that's interesting is that I think a lot of people don't really fully understand the source of Deadpool, the genesis of Deadpool. Deadpool was created by Rob Liefeld, and the through line from Liefeld for creating Deadpool is very, very simple. Okay, it's all about irreverence. So basically, the character of Deadpool will say, "What you revere, I am going to mock." right? So it's irreverence, saying, you revere this thing, I mock this thing, right? Well, Rob Liefeld was a very irreverent artist, and that's where he began. He began as a comic book artist, right? And he created Deadpool, and that was an extension of his irreverence. Where was Rob Liefeld's first irreverence, right? Well, it was in drawing, right? So he was a comic book drawer, comic book artist, and illustrator, and where other comic book artists would say, we revere the works of Michelangelo, we revere the works of, all the great painters, Monet and, Van Gogh and Picasso and, just hundreds and hundreds of classical illustrators, animators, and painters. They would say, okay, the anatomy of a person is important, right? And Rob Liefeld said, no, anatomy is not important, right? And the way he would draw human beings in comic books, but he was irreverent about human anatomy, right? And he would just put muscles wherever he wanted muscles to be, where they did not exist at all on the human body. And he was irreverent, right? He was irreverent about illustration, right? But his work caught a hold, and he did X-Force, he did a few other titles. He did X-Force and X-Factor, and he did those in the 90s, and he made a real name for himself in the 90s with his irreverent illustration style, right? And then he brought that to Deadpool. He said, most superheroes are revere being a hero, but Deadpool is going to mock being a hero. And that was the birth of Deadpool. Irreverence for illustration to irreverence for superheroes as a whole, right? Now, again, one of the issues why I struggle so much and really have a pretty strong dislike for the character of Deadpool, both in the comic books and in the movies, is I love comic books, right? And I really felt very strongly that enough people were making fun of comic books. Now it's not this way today because comic books have become a mainstream thing. But when I was coming up, it was, if you were reading a comic book on the bus, people called you a nerd or a geek. And I was like, people are making fun of comic books outside of the comic industry. And the literary organizations make fun of us. It's called our content real books. Why do we need to make fun of ourselves? It just didn't make sense to me, and it still doesn't make sense to me, right? So I really just very much disliked it. Excuse me. So basically, now what happened with Deadpool, right? Deadpool was an experiment. So Deadpool is owned by Fox, right? Who also owns Fantastic Four, and who also owns the X-Men franchise, right? Now, basically, Fox had Deadpool, they had X-Men, and they had Fantastic Four. And basically, when they came to Deadpool, they said, okay, we're going to make the Deadpool movie. Ryan Reynolds pushed very hard for this film to be made. Actually, I had a lot of respect for how hard he worked. It did seem like he was really passionate about this. It seemed like he really wanted to play the character himself, and that he put his own stamp on the character himself, and really is pinning pretty much his entire career on these films, right? He's done very well for himself in movies, but he was kind of saying, I want to finish with Deadpool. Like, I want this to be a kind of a crown of my career, right? And I have to acknowledge, he worked very hard, and he really put his own stamp on Deadpool, right? My issue was, and really I think this is the critical mistake, this is the part that I really, really struggle with, is when they made Deadpool rated R, okay? So here's the issue. Many people incorrectly believe that making a rated R film is keeping the movies consistent with what happened in the comic books with Deadpool. That is 100% wrong, right? So here's why, right? Deadpool is teen content in the comic books. If you take all the comic books that have been made for Deadpool, even when Deadpool 1 came out, you'd have hundreds of comics on the table, right? 10 to 20% of those would be mature titles with the mature code, right? So a rated R movie is saying, hey, anybody under the age of 17 can't see this movie, you're out, right? And it's saying for teens, this movie isn't for you, right? But the reality is, in the comic books, Deadpool, the vast majority of comics that he is in are not mature titles and are easily accessible by teen viewers. And that's what I think should have happened. Deadpool should have been a PG-13 movie. That would have honored the time-tested formula of allowing families to go to the movies. And if they had gone to see the PG-13 movie, one, even most parents knew that Deadpool was a little spicier than the rest, right? But when parents took their kids to see a rated R Deadpool, it wasn't just rated R, it was a hard R. A hard R, right? And by the way, I never saw it. This is all from, but I watched no less than 20 reviews for the movie, read a lot of articles about the movie, so I actually know quite a bit about the movie, but I've never seen the movie, right? No, and the reason why I don't go see the Deadpool movies is I'm strongly opposed to the dilution of the overall superhero brand. I really feel that superheroes should be for families, and that this should remain as a strong export of the United States of America. The United States of America created comic books, and now we're exporting comic books to the rest of the world. And I think it's just wise to say comic books are for families, right? And not only has this worked, this has made billions and billions of dollars for multiple studios, and it's just a sound, strong method, right? And I just don't, and I really feel like taking one movie so that one superhero can talk to the screen and mock the overall superhero genre, the risk was you're risking so much. You're literally risking billions of dollars a year, and there was even the possibility that families would stop going altogether and say, oh, well, okay, Deadpool's saying the whole superhero thing is done. A lot of people, and tons of people who like to read books and are really kind of hoity-toity and more Ivy League, right? I've been saying for a long time, when is this whole caped project going to be over? When are we going to go back to seeing less comic book movies in the theaters? And so comic book, movies were under threat, right? And there was a distinct possibility that families could go, oh, okay, well, all that stuff I've been reading about in the New York Times, yeah, okay, so superhero family movies are done. I'll just stop. I don't need to drag my kids to these things, or I don't need to take my kids to these things every summer when they ask, because they're over, right? And there was a distinct possibility of that, right? And that's one of the issues why I feel so strongly about what Fox did was I feel they were willing to risk the entire genre for one movie. Deadpool 1 was an underperformer, made about $800 million, right? To me, any strong major character with the type of following that Deadpool had, Wonder Woman, Justice League, Aquaman, all these kind of characters. $1 billion should be a layup. And the reason why I say that is Marvel, by and large, their question is, am I going to make $2 billion? Am I going to make, $2 billion, right? So their target is $2 billion. And the rest of the industry, their target should be $1 billion. Deadpool, for all it risked, didn't even bring in $1 billion. It made less money than Jumanji, right? A remake for just a one-off from Dwayne The Rock Johnson. It made less money than that, so it was an underperformer. So it risked a lot to gain a little, right? And so here we are. That's Deadpool 1, and now where are we at with Deadpool 2? So I'm really fascinated what's happened with Deadpool 2. So here's the reviews I watched. Jeremy Johns, right? By the way, I don't think there's any spoilers in this, and the reason why is none of the reviews I watched had spoilers. So Jeremy Johns reviewed it, Grace Randolph reviewed it, and Screen Junkies reviewed it, okay? So you have, those three primary reviews. All of them said generally the same thing. One, they were all very careful not to compare it to the first one. That, in my opinion, I think, and actually Jeremy Johns said flat out that it's a worse movie than that. Deadpool 2 is not as good a movie as Deadpool 1, right? It's just not. And the reason why is, one of the things Fox did was soft R. They went soft R, and they went with way less violence. So there's less NSFW content, less mature content, and there's less violence, right? Which I'm really curious how that's going to play with the Deadpool fan base, because that's why they go to see these, generally, right? But I guess that's going to be one of the experiments, is why do Deadpool fans really like Deadpool? I think I know the answer to that. Deadpool fans are passionate about the work of Rob Liefeld. So when you meet somebody who's like really likes the mask and they're saying, I'm a champion of the work of Rob Liefeld, right? Deadpool fans are champions of the work of Rob Liefeld. They're like Liefeld super fans, right? And it's important to remember that Deadpool fans are really, really big fans of Rob Liefeld, right? Very important to remember about the Deadpool community is really the Rob Liefeld community. It's the best way to understand the Deadpool community. All right, so basically, so we have a reduction in violence, we have a reduction in NSFW content, which is really fascinating because that's what however, you go with a soft R, why didn't you just go with a PG-13? And the reason why is generally Rob Liefeld fans, Deadpool fans, they have really felt very strongly that this movie needed to be rated R, right? And the studios did understand that there could be a major backlash if they converted the film to a PG-13, right? Now, one of the things that I was really disappointed with was I understand why they kept the movie a rated R in the theaters. I don't understand why they didn't do a PG-13 version when it went to Blu-ray and DVD, right? Because then, why not do that and then and then also make it the first film where you can have a rated R and have a PG-13, right? But the reality is they kept it a rated R property, but they went with a soft R, less NSFW content and less violence, right? So essentially you're shaving the hard corners off of Deadpool, which I find fascinating, right? Now I think it's bad stewardship. I think overall Fox has been bad stewards of everything they've held. The X-Men, underperformers. Fantastic Four, underperformers. Deadpool should have been PG-13. Would have saved problems for the entire industry. Would have saved problems for Fox. And I think as a PG-13 movie, I think Deadpool would have went well over $1 billion. Well over $1 billion. And the reason why was, even in its rated R form, one of the things that was learned in the original film was that there were a ton of parents that wanted to take their kids, their young children, people under 17 years old, to see Deadpool, right? That was learned. I mean, that definitely came out, that there was a strong number of people who wanted to see the movie that just couldn't based on their age, right? And so that was really came out from Deadpool 1. So what's strange here is it seems like they listened to the notes and was saying, oh, that hard R was a bad idea. Here's a soft R. But if you're going to go with a soft R, why don't you just go to a PG-13 and make this thing accessible? And they could have made a PG-13 version of the film that people could have watched originally. Now, I kind of know the reason, and the reason why is the Rob Liefeld fans, the Deadpool fans, same group, right? They are really, really adamant that this needs to remain a rated R film. So I'm really curious, how those fans are going to respond. Now, my prediction, right? This is on Tuesday. The movie hasn't even come out yet. I predict that Deadpool will not break $1 billion. It will absolutely not break $1 billion. That is my prediction. All right. So it's going to really be really interesting to see what happens with this Rob Liefeld movie. This movie, starring a character created by Rob Liefeld, and Deadpool. And it's really going to be interesting to see where all this lands. I'm really, really surprised that that overall the studio decided, and Ryan Reynolds agreed, and the new director agreed, and they took this to a soft R. And in addition to that, they decreased the violence within the film. That is not something I would expect to hear out of a Deadpool 2 movie. I'm really curious where all this is going to land. My prediction is it's going to come in around, I would say, $600 million. So I think overall, I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be a big hit. But we're going to see. We will see. It should be very interesting. Thank you.